Staying at the Grand Hotel is like taking a step back in time. It's a refreshing change of pace from today's hotels, all being modern with contemporary design. This Victorian-style hotel makes you feel like you are in the golden era of American history. Located on Mackinac Island, where streets are filled with old-school street lamps, no cars are allowed on the island, so all transportation is done via bike, horse riding, or walking. In order to get to Mackinac Island, there are multiple ferry services that will allow you to park overnight and then shuttle you over to the island, where they will take your bags and will bring them directly to your room at the Grand Hotel, which is a very nice white glove service, so you don't have to worry about your bags and lugging them around the island. And before we dive right into the rest of this video, I want to do a major disclaimer. If you do not know anything about the Grand Hotel, I want to be the first to tell you that this property is rooted in its old traditions still to this day, and they have a dress code enforced throughout the entire property. After 6:30 p.m., they will refuse the right to serve you, and they'll ask you to go back to your room and not into public spaces if you do not properly meet their dress code. For men, a suit jacket or a sports coat with a tie, dress shirt, and trousers is what is required, and for women, it is dresses. This isn't work casual, this is semi-formal to formal. You can't get away with a polo tucked into some pants. You truly have to be wearing a suit or a sports coat for the entire evening for men. All right, now that we have that little detail out of the way, let's dive into the property and everything it has to offer. Upon check-in, they're gonna give you a little card that basically acts as your pass while you're walking around the Grand Hotel, just to show that you are a person staying on the property, because if you're not, they do charge individuals $13 just to roam around the premises, is because they are very beautiful and it is a very big tourist attraction on the island. So let's dive into the property itself. This hotel offers 13 bars and restaurants to choose from, and while you're booking this hotel, you can opt in for the dining package. The dining package offers dinner and breakfast included in your stay for however many days you are staying there. These meals that will be included in your stay will all be taken part in the main dining room. The main dining room is a beautiful space. It overlooks the lake and the pool in the front of the property, and it is lined with mirrors to make it look like an old school Hollywood movie set. For dinner in the main dining room, they offer a 5-course menu. All courses are included in your dining package, so you get a soup, a salad, an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert, all included with your stay if you opt in for this package. However, alcohol is not included, and it can be pretty pricey at this hotel. You're looking at $10 for a beer, $20 for wine, and around $30 for cocktails. For breakfast, I would say it's a pretty average selection compared to the dinner menu. You have a mix between a buffet and a menu. You can go up and get whatever you want from the buffet, and you can also order whatever you want from the menu, and they are both complimentary, or they're both included in your stay. Now, I would say the food quality in the main dining room is pretty hit or miss. The dinner, as I said before, is really good. There was great quality ingredients. The beef Wellington that I had was cooked perfectly, and it had a really nice flavor to it, and all of the appetizers and entrees from everyone else that I was dining with seemed like they really enjoyed their meal. Everything was stupendous. Breakfast, on the other hand, we had a different waitress serving our table, and honestly, there was just some big service inconsistencies for breakfast. For example, I got the steak and eggs. They didn't ask how they wanted the steak cooked, so it came pretty much cooked well, which is not how I prefer to eat my steak. And the eggs that were on the steak and eggs combo were just powdered eggs. I asked for hollandaise because I do like to have a little bit of hollandaise sauce for my eggs, and instead of bringing a sauce, they bought 2 extra sausages on the plate, which the waitress could have been new to serving and might have not known what hollandaise was. But when you're paying this amount of money to stay in these rooms, you would kind of expect very high quality service, and confusing hollandaise for sausages is just not something you would expect. We were only there for one night, so we didn't really dine at the other places, but we did go to a decent majority of the bars. I do have to say, all of the cocktails we had were fantastic. A thing that I do have to say about the Grand Hotel and the ambiance of the Grand Hotel is that every room pretty much has live music going. So when you're dining in the main dining room, there's a band playing. When you want to go dancing at night, there's a live band playing. And all the entertainment is very good. It is all live music though. So some people prefer to have a DJ. I usually fall in that camp, but I feel like when you're in the old Victorian style kind of resort, it makes sense to just have live music because DJs didn't really exist when these locations were founded. And when you're in the Grand Hotel, you'll definitely recognize that it is just a beautiful space. There is a bunch of flowers and gardens spread throughout the property, and it takes a while to realize that these are real flowers and it looks like it's just this beautiful property and garden. And I just really enjoyed walking around the hotel because it just felt like a movie set, and I can't say that enough. Like, words truly can't describe the peace I felt when I was just walking around Mackinac Island, and then on the property of the Grand Hotel, it just took it up another step higher. I really think that if you have the money, it's something that you should experience at least once in your life. The Grand Hotel is also known for their really small details that make it feel even more luxurious, like the Grand Hotel embossing and all the towels in your room, sliding your daily itinerary under your door. It was just little things that felt like white glove service that just elevated the property a little bit more. Now, the Grand Hotel has an amazing pool. We did go in the beginning of the summer, so it was still a little bit cold in Michigan. So unfortunately, we didn't really get a chance to do it, but there still were a bunch of kids and families running around the pool area. And not to mention that there was a ton of space to go tanning, and they had chairs laid out for any of those who want to indulge in that. But we had a packed day and we just wanted to go see the island and really just take it all in. Now, in the Grand Hotel, if you're a big shopper, there are tons of shops. There's men's apparel, women's apparel, home decor, souvenirs, a flower shop. Like, on property, there's probably about anywhere from like 8 to 10 shops, and you could probably spend all day shopping in those shops if you really wanted to, if you didn't want to see the rest of the island. But I highly recommend checking out the rest of the island as well because there's a ton to do. The ice cream shop does close a little bit early. It closes around 8 p.m. and dinner service doesn't really end till 9 p.m. So for those people who like to eat a little bit later in the day, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to hop into the sweet spot for a post-dinner sweet treat, but I have to say the quality was really good in the ice cream shop on property. I did mention the price of the cocktails before, but I have to say if you are mentally prepared to spend that amount of money on beverages, it is definitely a really cool experience. We did have the opportunity to hit a couple bars after we mentally prepared to take out a second mortgage. And I do have to say some of my favorite bars was the Cupola Bar, which is the highest bar in the property. It's on the very peak of the Grand Hotel. It has amazing views of the lakes and the Mackinac Bridge. We also went to the Terrace Bar, which is where the live music was performing and where a lot of people ended up at night if they wanted to keep the night going. And that performance ended around 1 a.m. So you could hang out all night there if you want to. Those are pretty much all of the pros for the Grand Hotel. Now let's move into the cons because I definitely like to get that out there as well for your information. The staff is definitely trained to upsell in almost every experience or every option they give you. So you have to be very careful when you're ordering drinks or ordering food. And that is something that I just don't like, for especially when you're paying this amount of money to stay at a hotel per night. I feel like they shouldn't be pushing all of these extra charges on you. Like, for example, we went to Baruch, which is a bar that is really cool, really old, swaggy lounge. And I ordered a Manhattan that was $26. However, they tried to immediately upsell me on a Manhattan that was $36 that had like 2 extra ingredients in it. And I was just like, I looked at the menu as soon as he started recommending it, and I looked at the one thing that was like more expensive than everything else, and I just said no thank you. But there was just a certain thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way because they didn't say prices or anything. They just immediately tried to upsell you. Another thing that I didn't really like is that there were tons of bars, but they only had like 2 to 3 workers in each bar. So if you went to a crowded bar, it would take a very long time to flag them down. For example, we were in the terrace room doing live dancing, and it took them a while to come to us, and then it took a really long time to close out our tab at that bar. So it's just little things like this that I feel like if you're trying to be this ultra high-end resort, they should have staff to accommodate that. Another thing that is a little bit of a con is that the building definitely shows its age, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's definitely just a product of its environment when it was designed. The grounds are kept extremely meticulous. Everything is beautiful. The carpets are definitely very clean, but it's certain building aspects like having elevators that probably were an afterthought when they first were built. So the elevators are extremely small, and during check-in and check-out times, it is basically impossible to get an elevator. And that's because elevators probably weren't common when this hotel was built, and that was just probably a renovation that they did years afterwards. So they probably just had to make space for them. And because of that, it's just not a great guest experience in that aspect. One thing that I didn't like at all is that our room didn't have tissues, nor did it have enough towels for the length of time we were staying for the amount of people that were in our room. And I feel like, again, if you want to be known as a super luxurious resort, you should be able to have that kind of figured out. However, overall, I do have to say staying at the Grand Hotel is definitely an experience. It is not a cheap experience by any means, and it is a little inconvenient to get to. If you're gonna fly, you have to fly into Traverse City, then either rent a car or figure out how to get there, because the port that takes you to Mackinac Island is about a 2-hour drive. So it is a little out of the way, which is nice for the locals probably, but for anyone that wants to go travel out of state and see this, it is a little bit of a hassle. But once you are there, it really is an amazing experience just to see how the old world golden era of America really was. It was just so cool to see how grand everything was done. Everything was overblown with wallpaper, with white glove service from all the waiters in the restaurants. It just felt really elegant and classy and timeless. But that's pretty much it for the Grand Hotel. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have stayed there, please let me know about your thoughts on the restaurants that I wasn't able to get to. We did pretty much just stay in the main dining room while we were there because it was included in our package, but I wanted to hear about the Jockey Club. And if you have stayed at the Grand Hotel, and if you haven't stayed at the Grand Hotel, let me know what you're looking forward to most in your trip if you're planning to go there. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name's Kyle. See you in the next video. Take it easy and peace.